Well, we are here on the final chapter of our class. My congratulations to you for sticking with it, and especially for that one stretch where you got so much done in a short period of time. To be honest with you, I was a little bit nervous going into that week because it seemed like you were a little bit behind where I would hope that you had been, but you caught up nicely. Your work quality has been very good, so I commend you for managing your time within the parameters that you have, of which I know nothing. You've done well, and I appreciate you sticking with it this long. We're on chapter 15 in Bauer and Erdogan. It is organizational cultures. The summary of the lecture video that you will watch, and I am confident that you will actually watch it. We'll start off talking about the levels of culture and the types of cultures. It'll touch briefly on the fact that we will have an overall culture to our organization, but within that overall cultures there will be some subcultures because overall we believe in these things, but within our department, those things are important, but this is how we do it. So we have developed our own subculture. We'll talk too about how those cultures develop, what causes our organization to do it this way. There's a cute little cartoon in the book where the two guys are sitting at their desks and they've got these outlandish hats on. And one of them says, "I don't know why we do it. We just always have done it that way. That's part of our culture, and we don't know where it came from." So we'll talk about where those cultures come from initially, and then how we strengthen those cultures when we found what works for us. Certainly, when we start a new business and we establish a culture, those who were involved in the early culture know that's the way we do it. But as we bring in other people, our culture changes if we allow the new people to influence what we do. And we need to strengthen our culture by bringing in the right people. And if our culture is lacking somewhere, we need to open up to new ideas, which is the last part of the chapter. How does our culture change? Well, when does it make sense to change it? How do we go about changing it? What do we do if it starts to change in a way that we're not prepared for or we don't agree with? That's a good way to conclude the chapter, because one of the biggest roles that we'll have as human resource people is evaluating our culture and certainly looking for people to bring in who can meet certain qualifications, who have certain KSAs, knowledge, skills, and abilities, but ideally also people who have a similar life view, a similar perspective on life that causes their values to line up with our values, which strengthens our culture. And we as HR people can just really be focused on, can they do these things, but they look at life completely differently. They've got the right skills, but they don't help our culture, and that creates turmoil and conflict, which we talked about in earlier chapters. And if we can bring in people that, as we say, already have those skills and those abilities, but who also share the culture that we already have, it just makes us even greater. The lecture video is shorter this time. It's only 13 minutes and 14 seconds. When you're done with that, you've got the traditional summary. What did you learn? What was important? What was significant? You have the quiz that is 10 questions. This particular chapter concludes the assessments. There are two of those. Assessment 39 talks about our corporate culture preference, and it gives us a score on 4 different variables: the degree to which we like or comfortable with the senior management controlling that culture and kind of setting the pace for us versus our desire to kind of create our own culture independent of them. The second piece is related to our comfort level with a culture that emphasizes performance and efficiency versus much more of a casual type of environment. What gets done, gets done. The third piece looks at our comfort level with teamwork as opposed to really kind of working on our own. And then the last piece of it measures our comfort level with the external environment influencing our culture. In other words, we react to what's going on around us. Our culture is largely dependent on what our competitors do, or what our customers need, or what the government says. Assessment 40 then is the right organizational culture, and that gets to whether you really kind of prefer a mechanistic culture, which is similar to what we talked about in terms of the organizational structure. But the contrast to that in this assessment is not the organic culture, but the humanistic culture. The emphasis from, you'll remember from that other part, the mechanistic organic, is whether we're structured and bureaucratic or whether we're fluid. This really talks about whether we're tasks or people, when you've boiled it down to simple terms, the mechanistic or the humanistic structure. When the assessments are done, the final exam will open. I'm in the process of designing that right now. As I'm recording this, as you are viewing this, it's out there, and I believe what you'll see when you go in is a little bit more in terms of what I'm expecting you to know. What I've designed for the on-campus class is actually 90 questions, true, false, and multiple choice, 15 questions each from these three chapters, 13, 14, 15, for a total of 45. And then 15 questions that appeared on exams 1, 2, and 3. Word for word, same answers, same structure, whatnot. So 45 questions from these three chapters, 45 questions from the first three tests. The one thing that's good about that prior test thing is that you've seen the question before. And you probably, looking at the grades that you had, got the questions right. So it's just a refreshing your mind of what you've already learned. The bad thing is that I don't know that you've got the ability to go back and relook at those tests, but you did well the first time you saw the question, so hopefully you do well the second time as well. When that test is over, it'll open up the last video call 6. That is just designed to say, hey, you're done, congratulations, think back over the semester, everything that you did, what really kind of stands out to you. So where the summaries each chapter or the highlights of the chapter, video call 6 is the highlights of the highlights. You know, what 2 or 3 ideas from all 15, 14 chapters really are going to stick with you and maybe cause you to reflect on the way that you do things, change the way that you do things. That wraps up the class. When the video call is complete and I've posted a grade for it, you're done. All I got to do is do some quick math and find out how many points you got and go out to Rain and put in a grade. There is out there in Georgia View a class evaluation. I'm not even, really honestly, I'm not even going to suggest that you do it, because the purpose of that is to give you the ability to give me anonymous feedback, and you're the only one in the class, so it's real easy to figure out whether you circled 1s or 5s. I'm going to talk with the folks to see if there's any way that they can include you in the on-campus class so that you are one of 26 instead of one of 1. They may not be able to do that. If you want to do it, that's okay. But to the degree that there is any need on your part to say anything that is somewhat critical or could be taken as constructive criticism, and you just aren't comfortable doing that, knowing that I'm going to know that it's you that said it, you have the option to not even do the evaluation. But again, if you want to, it's out there. Well, that's the end of it. Once you watch this video and go through these normal cycles that we've become accustomed going through, it's all done, and I appreciate your diligence. I hope that it has had some meaning for you, and that it will make it a little bit easier to understand the people you work with, because you understand yourself a little bit better. That was one of the goals. Know yourself better, use that information to be able to see things in other people and maybe react to them a little bit better, a little bit differently. Congratulations.